Hello, my fellow Faes. This year, I'm on a mission to fill my life with more moments of magic and whimsy and encourage you to join me. In the past, my yearly goals were focused on things like losing weight or making a certain amount of money. However, these goals never felt sustainable in the long run, and I never formed habits that kept me fulfilled throughout the year. To make life more whimsical, I wanted to create a framework of whimsy I could refer back to throughout the year. I started by making a list of whimsical activities to incorporate into my life. I focused on activities that were easy to build into my life, and I designed it to focus on things I already own. Even though I'm just starting to set these goals this year, I want these activities to become whimsical rituals that are integrated into my life for years to come. I have just finished the framework for making my life more whimsical this year, and I feel like this is a framework that I can use not only for this year, but for years to come. And while I do have other little goals, it's not necessarily written out. I feel like I've incorporated them in this framework in a way where it just flows naturally, and these goals can be accomplished by just doing the framework. So my 4 main goals for this year is to doom scroll less, be more creative, own less things in general, and to travel more. And you're going to see all of these things incorporated within my framework. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is essentially the front page of my whimsical goals for the year, and I've broken them down into bite-sized pieces. So I've got weekly, I've got monthly, I've got seasonally, which is every 3 months, and then I have yearly. The whole point is to create whimsy year-round, so these are not necessarily going to tie in. Your weekly goals and your monthly goals might be different, but they're all trying to get to the same common theme of making your life more whimsical. These are going to vary person to person. You're going to notice that there's going to be some things on here that are very specific to me that you can easily switch out for something that relates to you. So this is just what I have, and you guys will have to make your own. So let's go ahead and get started into the weekly. I've got my weekly whimsical goals, and you can see that I've broken them down even further from that main page that you guys saw. So hobbies, journaling, and movement are 3 things that I want to incorporate within my life every single week. There's nothing whimsical about doom scrolling and being completely stressed out, and there is nothing whimsical about online shopping and over-consuming, even if it's secondhand. I highly recommend writing down your hobbies. I know it might seem a little silly, but when you're in the midst of trying not to doom scroll and online shop, you'll find yourself very bored looking for things to do, and it's just really good to have a list that you can refer yourself back to. So hobbies and movement are both hobbies. I just have hobbies as stationary hobbies and movement as hobbies that you might have to go out and do. So for my hobbies, I do sewing, reading, painting, and clay work. So you will have to sub these out for whatever you personally like to do. If one of your main goals this year is to indulge in a new hobby, that's where you can put this in the weekly whimsical goals. I also have journaling, and I know journaling can also be seen as a hobby. So I have junk journaling, which is more of a hobby, but I've just put it under journaling because it just made more sense in my mind. I also have weekly planning, and that's not necessarily journaling. It's a form of journaling, I feel like, so that's why I put it under this category. But for my weekly planning, it's basically for me to write out what I want to do for that week, and that will also include writing down my hobbies. I personally have found out that planning out my hobbies during the week does help. Of course, I'm able to change them based on how I'm feeling and what I want to do. Right now, what's second nature to me is doom scrolling and online shopping, so I feel like it's really good to schedule in my hobbies during the week just because it's not second nature to me right now. So my daily journal is different from my junk journal because my junk journal just requires a lot more tools to get done what I want to get done. My junk journal is more so for planned creativity, so usually I'll use my junk journal after a trip and kind of document it there, whereas a daily journal is something that I want to carry around with me. Also with junk journaling, you need glue and stickers and stamps, and I don't want to have to carry that around on a daily basis. So I ended up getting something that was 1, a lot smaller than my current junk journal, and 2, something that's just for my ideas every day. It's more so for creative thoughts and just kind of putting whatever I want to in here. And it's also different from my weekly planner because my weekly planner is more so for things that I need to get done. I also do have other journals that I've tried to use in the past, and I just ended up never using them because they were more of a full size. So I'm hoping that with this being smaller, I can easily just shove it into my purses and I don't have that issue. So hopefully this works. Also in my journaling, I have finance tracking. Something about me is that I love finances. Anything to do with finances, I find it super interesting. I love tracking my own finances. I love setting a budget for myself. I find it so beneficial, and I always write down every single thing that I buy, and I have it put into categories so that I'm budgeting everything accordingly. So that's why I have that in journaling. On to my movement hobbies. My movement hobbies include lira, hiking, kayaking, hula hooping, and horseback riding. And I don't think I said this before, but the other reason why I separated out stationary hobbies and movement hobbies is because they're two different types of dopamine in my mind, because when you move around, not only does your body feel good, but your mind feels good. Whereas with stationary hobbies, I feel like it's more so for your mind versus your mind and your body. So I wanted to separate those out because I think having both in the week is very good for you. I actually started horseback riding lessons last fall, and I'm going to continue doing this year. Hula hooping is something that I've done since I was a teenager, and I still have my hula hoops. It's something that I can very easily do outside, inside, anywhere, anytime, and so I wanted to include that as well. I also have kayaking in my movement hobbies. So kayaking is something that I actually got last year as a gift towards the end of the year, and it hasn't been used yet. So I wanted to incorporate this within my goals on actually using the kayak. Am I going to use the kayak every single week? Absolutely not, but I wanted to have it as an option to turn to within my weekly planning. And then lastly is lira. I have my own lira rig downstairs that very rarely ever gets used, so I also wanted to include that in the list. Something that you're going to notice within my weekly planning, most of these are things that I already have, and I highly encourage you to pull from what you already have before you start incorporating too many goals of all these new things that you want to learn. So something that I didn't include in here is knitting. I actually have most of the stuff that I need to start knitting, but right now I'm just trying to build habits and rituals, so I really want to focus on what I already have and know how to do, so that it's not this huge learning curve of not only trying to get me into the motion of doing my hobbies, but also having to learn a whole new thing just seems like a lot. So I've just picked hobbies that I already know how to do and that I'm comfortable doing that I can incorporate within my weekly planning. If you guys remember earlier, I told you about some of my main goals. One of those was to doom scroll less, the other one was to be more creative, and then the other one was to own less. And I feel like you can really see that within my weekly goals. For example, I have hobbies. These are all hobbies that are not only going to feed my creativity, but they're going to keep me busy so I'm not online shopping and doom scrolling. I'm also going to be owning less because these are all hobbies that I already have and own, and so I'm going to be using what I have, and I'm going to, in the process, own less stuff because I'm just focusing and enjoying what I have right now. And then lastly, with the journaling, I feel like this really helps my creativity. I'm able to plan creative time with my weekly planning. I'm able to have the money to do more creative things with my finance tracking. I'm able to be creative with my daily journaling and my junk journaling. So I feel like these all help meet the goals without necessarily saying it. Now we're moving on to our monthly whimsical goals. So for my monthly whimsical goals, I put travel. I want to travel once a month, and this can be within the same state. I don't have to travel multiple states away. I don't need to get on a plane. I can just drive a few hours and stay within my same state and still travel and explore somewhere new. So I think that's very important. That I think a lot of people just automatically assume travel means I have to get on a plane, I have to drive, 16 hours, otherwise it's not considered traveling. You can travel within your state, figure out what works for you and your budget, and if this month you need to travel only within your state, then do that. You can easily rent out an Airbnb, maybe go stay with a friend, or maybe even just take a day trip a few hours away and see something that you've never seen before in your state. One of the main things that I feel like people kind of forget about when they travel is, do I have friends in this place? And if you do, go see them, go visit them, and if they have spare room, stay with them, and it helps you save money so that you're able to travel every single month. So that's something that I really want to dive into in this upcoming year, is to really focus on where are my friends, where can I go, where can I see them and visit them so I'm not just seeing them on holidays, and also just take people up on their offer. I don't know how many times I have been told, please come see me, I have a guest room. So I'm going to start taking up my friends on their offer. Hopefully they meant it. And I'm going to go and visit friends. Not only does this strengthen your friendship, but then you get a free place to stay and you get to explore and see what your friends are doing and have them show you around to all of their favorite spots. So I'm really looking forward to that. this upcoming year. Another thing I have are flowers. This is pretty simple. This is just something that kind of just adds whimsy into your life. I did this for a little bit last year, but then I kind of fell off. I think in the winter months, it's kind of weird to have fresh flowers, so I just have a little dried flower bouquet out right now. Once spring starts, I'm thinking of buying fresh flowers, and I just think it adds a nice touch. I am somebody who cannot keep houseplants alive, so if you are somebody who can do that, I highly recommend just focusing on the plants that you have now and keeping them alive versus buying flowers as often. Since I can't keep houseplants alive, I don't mind just going and buying flowers every 1 to 2 weeks. I also like this because it's something that you can look forward to, but it doesn't take up too much space. All you need is a vase, and then after the 2 weeks, you're able to just throw the flowers out in your backyard or dispose of them in some kind of compost. So next up is astronomy. This is something that's probably very specific to me, but if you also like astronomy, then you can also incorporate this in. Or maybe you're somebody who's more into astrology, so then maybe you can incorporate this in with your monthly goals. For me personally, I like astronomy. I love stars, meteor showers, just any events that are happening in space I'm very interested in, so I really want to find an app. If you guys know of any apps, please let me know in the comments down below, but I want an app that can tell me about things that are happening within my area. I don't necessarily want to watch them from a screen. I would like to go out and experience them for myself. I think a few years ago we had a meteor shower near us, and we were able to wake up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and drive around and look at all the meteors that were going by, and it was so whimsical, magical, and I think about that moment often, so I want to incorporate more moments like that within my life. So a goal that I want to incorporate for a work goal is to work on content creation. That's what I'm currently trying to pursue right now, is content creation. And when I work from inside, it can feel very stagnant, and I just feel like my creativity gets stifled a little bit by sitting and seeing the same things over and over again. So I want to encourage myself that at least once a month, I go out to either a coffee shop, a park, even if it's just my back porch. I want to go outside of the house and work on some of my stuff. Right now, I don't have a laptop that I can work on content creation, like editing wise, but I can write a script in a coffee shop or write a script in a park. So I think that's what I want to really focus on going into my monthly goals. So going back to those goals that I told you in the beginning, there's so many things in here that tie back to that. For example, flowers and astronomy tie back into me wanting to own less. Astronomy does not take up you having to own or buy anything, and it's just using nature and enjoying nature for what it is. Same thing with the flowers. Once the flowers wilt, you're able to just toss them. So it's not like you're constantly bringing physical items into your house that you have to manage and take care of. And then travel obviously helps with my goals on wanting to travel more. Also, I know that traveling once a month might be intimidating. I currently have a schedule that allows me to do that. If you don't, you can change this to traveling seasonally, so maybe you only travel once every 3 months. Speaking of seasonally, let's move on to our seasonal whimsical goals. So our seasonal whimsical goals are things that are going to occur every 3 months. So what I have is declutter, letters to friends, and celebrating the season. So let's start with the declutter. Every 3 months, I want to reevaluate everything that I own and get rid of anything that is not serving me. The whole goal is to own less, as I told you about one of my goals. By reevaluating my stuff and hopefully not bringing in new stuff from my weekly and monthly goals, I will end up eventually owning less by the end of the year. And then I also have here less is more as just kind of like a little mantra when I'm going through my stuff, or if I want to make a purchase, just reminding myself less is more. Do I really want to bring this item into my life? And if I do, what am I getting rid of to bring this item into my life? What really sparked this was seeing some of my earlier videos on YouTube where I have a super small minimal capsule wardrobe, and I just remember being so much more creative in that time and in that space. So I really do want to get back to just owning less. Next thing within my seasonal whimsical goals are writing letters to friends. This is something that is so whimsical and is so fun, and I'm really looking forward to. So I'm thinking of doing it by the season. I don't celebrate holidays, but I do celebrate seasons. So I want to be better about that. And a way I can celebrate the season is by making cards, because I have all the stuff for painting. As you guys remember my hobbies, painting was one of my hobbies. So I want to incorporate my hobby of painting into making these letters, because of course you could go out and buy them, ship them if you want to, but I feel like it's a lot more special if you make them. So I want to make my seasonal letters and send them out to friends. I've been saving all of the addresses that I've gotten from people who have sent me Christmas cards, so you guys will be getting some seasonal cards in the mail come springtime. So in my letters to friends, I have catching up, poem, start a thread. So these are just ideas that I can use when it comes time to writing something. If I want to, I can easily just say happy spring if I don't have the mental capacity to write any more than that and send it out so that it actually does get sent out. I also have, poem. If I have a poem that either reminds me of that person or just a poem that I'm enjoying in general, I can easily have that as the writing in the card. And then I could also potentially let somebody know, just keeping them updated season to season, like how I'm doing. Or if the friend ends up writing back, then you've started a little thread and now you have a pen pal. Lastly, for our seasonal whimsical goals, we have celebrate the season. So for celebrate the season, I just wrote down candles, decorate the home, seasonal food, seasonal activities. This is more so to focus less on bringing new stuff in each season and more to focus on just truly celebrating the season. So seasonal foods, something that's perishable. So yes, you're celebrating the season by eating these things, but you're not bringing more stuff in. And then you have seasonal activities like going apple picking. Again, that's something that you're not necessarily bringing in. Pumpkin patches, again, it's something that's perishable. So I'm thinking of activities like that you're not necessarily bringing something in. Also for fall, picking sunflowers. Again, it'll perish, but that's an activity that you can do to celebrate the season, but you don't end up having a bunch of stuff afterwards. So again, you can see how my seasonal whimsical goals tie into those 4 main goals I was telling you guys about. Let's move on to the yearly whimsical goals. So you've got my yearly whimsical goals. So with my yearly whimsical goals, there's so much to unpack here. So the first one is to celebrate my birthday. My birthday occurs once a year, just like yours. And so that's why I've put it with my yearly goals. So I want to celebrate my birthday. In the past, I usually end up doing absolutely nothing, or maybe I'll go out and buy my favorite food and then come home and then that's it. Birthdays really aren't that big of a deal to me, but I feel like the older that I get, the more that I really want to slow down and appreciate the birthday for what it is, me being here another year. So one of the things that I want to incorporate is to actually celebrate it. I love dressing up, so if you don't like dressing up, you don't have to dress up. I want to dress up for my birthday, and even if I'm celebrating it alone, I want to dress up. And I do want to do something with friends. I feel like in the past I've already kind of celebrated it alone. I think I want to do something with friends. It's just so hard because I have friends from so many different walks of life that they don't necessarily know each other. I have friends that, like to go out and eat in the city, and then I have friends that just want to hang out and go hiking. And because I have so many different friends in so many different areas, I feel like it would be weird to try to get them all together for one event to celebrate me. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I haven't done it in the past, is because I hate going to birthday parties for friends and it's a bunch of people that I just don't know and I just don't connect with. I'm thinking I might just pick 1 or 2 friends, and that's another reason why I didn't want to do birthday parties in the past, is because I don't want friends to feel like I'm picking somebody over another one. But I don't think most of my friends would genuinely feel that way. I think that's just something internally for me. So I want to focus on celebrating my birthday. Let's move on to the next one. I could go on for that one for like an hour. My next goal is big travel. So I want to travel outside of the US at least once a year. This is something that I've kind of been having as a rolling goal, and I've been able to accomplish it since last year. So that's been nice. This year, I'm thinking of taking a trip to Germany, and then I'm going to also go to Scotland. Last year, I went to Japan and I went to Ireland. So I've actually been doing 2 trips out of the US, which has been really nice, but I don't know how sustainable that is going to be in the long run. But I do think getting out at least, even if I don't travel the whole year, just doing this one big travel. I recommend, if you are located within the US, to get outside of the US, see other cultures, experience other places. I think that's so important for our mental health and just learning about the world in general. So the last goal is to donate unsold items. I have a really bad habit of decluttering things, but then they never actually leave my house and they just sit in my closet and I say I'm going to sell them and I do list them, but then nobody buys them and then I just have them sitting there rotting in my closet for years and years. I want to be better about letting go of things and not letting material things control me, and so I want to take those clothes and I want to make sure that they're getting out of my house every year. I'm always going to have things that probably don't end up working out for me that I do need to get rid of in some form of fashion, whether that's donating it or giving it to a friend or trying to sell it on Depop and Poshmark. But I need to be realistic about it and not just hoard things and not have what I currently have right now, which is a big tub of clothes in my closet. I don't want that anymore. So some ways that I've brainstormed on how I can make sure that these items go out. One is a clothing swap. I talked to my friends this holiday season and they were mentioning potentially doing a clothing swap, so I think that's really fun, and I will save my clothes until the end of the year. If they don't sell on Depop, Poshmark in person, then I will keep them for the end of the year, see if any of my friends want them, and then from there I will just take them to donations. So that is it for my yearly whimsical goals. One of the main reasons why I made this framework was not only for me, but for anyone else who has been feeling like the last year was a little bit dark and they want to start enjoying their life again and incorporating little bits of whimsy into their weekly, monthly, seasonally, and yearly life. And I highly encourage you guys to join me on this journey. I also really want to hear from you. What are you guys doing to add whimsy into your life? Do you guys have any suggestions for me to make this better? I am always willing to hear suggestions and open up my ears, and anything that's going to feed my soul, I am more than happy to try and incorporate in my life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to read all of your comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe if this is your first time here. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye, Faes.